On 17 August 2022, Crime Gangs Task Force attended a South Brighton property and arrested 3 individuals. Anthony Wells, 44, a Finks member, and on a parole board warrant, Vanessa Louise Bennett, 41, charged with breaching her home detention bail, trafficking a controlled drug, being in possession of a dangerous article and unlawful possession of property. And Tyrone Taipari, 33, another Finks member who was charged with trafficking a controlled drug. Detectives searched the home and located approximately 2 ounces of a substance believed to be methamphetamine. Officers also located a credit card knife which was subsequently seized. All 3 were refused police bail to appear in court. Wells was released last month on an extended supervision order after being declared a high-risk offender by the Supreme Court. But within days of being released, Wells has been arrested again. A parole board warrant had already been issued for Wells' arrest when he was picked up at the South Brighton home. This week, Wells appeared in the Supreme Court where a representative for the Attorney General applied to have him placed under extended supervision again. Justice Adam Kimber heard that a second application, this one for Wells' continuing detention in prison, would be laid imminently on the recommendation of the parole board. Wells has breached his extended supervision order 20 times in the space of a few months and is too dangerous to be let free in the public. In total, Wells has spent the past 5 years and 7 months either in custody or subject to supervision to the community. He has been on 3 extended supervision orders since being sentenced in May 2016. Wells had breached his supervision several times in July 2021 and had been taken into custody. Wells has a long list of breaches. In November, he tested positive to banned drugs, and reported for supervision intoxicated and incoherent. He stripped naked in front of officers and behaved in a difficult manner while there was an attempt to take urine from him. In another incident before testing, Wells swallowed 2 Valium tablets which were possibly stolen from another patient. However, he was released in November but breached his curfew and failed to report to corrections. On December 29, he told corrections workers he had gastro and had to go see a doctor, but a check of his electronic monitoring showed Wells had been at 13 different locations that day, probably searching for drugs for personal use. In 2016, Wells was sentenced to 2 years and 3 months imprisonment, with a non-parole period of 1 year and 8 months. This was when a Mongols associate was kidnapped by others and brought to Wells' house at Seaford Rise in August 2014, where he was tied up and assaulted. Wells then punched the victim in the head. The victim suffered multiple injuries including a brain hemorrhage and broken nose. While still tied up, the victim was wrapped in a sheet and placed at the back of a ute, which was pulled over by police at Seaford. When inspected, police discovered the man and rescued him. Appearing on video screen from the Adelaide Remand Centre, Anthony Wells said that he did not need the assistance of a legal aid lawyer who had been assigned to him. The application has been adjourned until next week for argument.